It's been a long off season, but we are back and we are ready to start talking more and more about the Los Angeles Rams. This is the Rams Radar. Hello, Ramley and other NFL family. Peo time here. Drop in a bit of a podcast. I have some thoughts going on. I see you guys in my comments. I see fans on the internet from Rams fans to other teams fans, and there's just a couple of thoughts that go through my head, and so I wanted to make this here. So let's get right into it. We are going to be talking about a few things here. Number one, I want to talk about the Jalen Ramsey trade again. And then I want to talk about the 5 biggest questions that I have about the 2023 Los Angeles Rams. So the first thing here, Jalen Ramsey for Hunter Long and Byron Young. That's what the trade has worked out to be. I know Ram fans like to joke that we had to give up Jalen Ramsey to get Hunter Long, but in all reality, we know that Jalen Ramsey was traded for a 3rd-round pick and Hunter Long, who was, he only had 1 catch with Miami last year in his rookie year. So really, he's still a prospect that needs, some honing of his skills. I have a hard time gauging what Hunter Long's ceiling is. The optimistic fan in me wants to think it's this huge ceiling and that Hunter Long's going to be this fantastic tight end. I don't think it's wrong that we brought in a tight end like Hunter Long to add to this tight end room, which there's been Higbee and we've had some other talented tight ends, like Bryson Hopkins has stepped up at times. And I'm not convinced we needed Hunter Long, but I'm not convinced it wasn't, worth putting him in with the trade. Now, a lot of people criticize the Rams only getting a 3rd-round pick in terms of draft capital, myself included, and still, sort of salty about it. But I've kind of changed my thinking, and not that I still don't like the trade. I wish we would have kept Jalen Ramsey. I wish him all the best with the Dolphins. Dolphins fans, if you're listening, like, you're gonna love having Ramsey on your team. But my thing is, I have to think of it this way: that it turns out the Rams traded a very expensive cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, for a backup tight end, maybe, and a edge rusher, like linebacker, with a high ceiling. When you look at Byron Young, you could tell he's a football player. You could tell he's got talent. Probably still needs to work a little bit on his technique, like any NFL player who's newly drafted. I love his attitude off the field. You can tell he's got a work ethic that is ready to go, and he definitely has a really high motor, which you always like to see. And when you say high motor, I think if football fans just know that someone who, when they put their their head down and their fists in the ground, that as soon as that ball is snapped, they're up and they're ready to go. So I like that. Does help me justify the trade a little bit more when I think about it that way. And I'm really curious to see what Byron Young and Hunter Long do in camp. I don't know if we're going to get to see them in preseason. I know that we are going to definitely, see clips of them at, training camp and things like that. But I'm really curious to see how Sean McVay approaches the preseason this year. That's not one of my 5 biggest questions, but now that I'm thinking of it off the top of my head, that is something I'm really curious about. But let me get into this here. And again, if you love talking Rams, subscribe, or if you love talking football in general. I'm just a dude up in Canada who loves the Rams. I love talking about the NFL. I would love if you would join me on the journey of the 2023 season, which brings me to my 5 biggest questions about the 2023 Los Angeles Rams. And this is in no particular order, but my number one that I'll say, my number one question I have is the young, unproven defense. And I think a lot of people think this defense is really gonna make mistakes. The reality is we really only have Ernest Jones, Aaron Donald, and Jordan Fuller coming back. Fuller coming off injury, Aaron Donald coming off injury. Ernest Jones looks ready to, really take leadership. We've noticed a change in him and just the way he's carried himself in press conferences. I think it's safe to say that Ernest Jones is one of the players that Ram fans are most excited about this season. But this defense is unproven, and that's not it's not wrong to label them that. I don't think it's I don't think it's we're at a point where it's to say the defense is a liability, that the defense is something that Ram fans should be worried about, but it should be something that we're interested in seeing. Okay, how is this going to turn out? There's going to be so many new faces, but besides the three positions I mentioned, we're going to have Michael Hoyt. It looks like he's going to have an expanded role. So like there is some familiarity there, but is Byron Young in there? And how are all these rookies that are going to get a chance to make this roster? How are they going to, continue to develop? And are we going to have a defense that can generate turnovers? Are we going to have a defense that, is between the 20s good but struggles in the red zone? Or are they going to just be the worst defense in the NFL? Or who knows, maybe they'll surprise people and be like a top 5. I am so curious about this young, unproven defense. And to be honest, I'm kind of excited about that. My second biggest question about the Rams in 2023 is Stafford, Kupp, and Donald's health. Kevin Demoff, Les Snead, Sean McVay, they've all talked so much praise about these individuals, rightfully so. They are pillars of the Rams team. They are very talented superstars in their own right. Stafford probably is my greatest concern just because of his injury history, what happened last year with the spinal cord contusion. However, everything we've seen from him, he looks healthy. And if you can, contrast it to last offseason, he definitely is having a full offseason. He looks ready to go. So does Kupp, so does Donald. So I don't think that we need to be concerned about this, but I do think that is one of the biggest question marks is how do these three superstars look coming off injury? I have every confidence in the world that they can come in and perform at a high level, but I'm not going to lie and say it's not a question. It's something worth, watching and making sure that they're 100%, and we're not, the Rams aren't forcing them into action when they don't need to be. And the good news about this is they're players that are known for a fantastic unhuman work ethic, and I'm hoping that between their own personal routines and family life and the Rams training staff, that they'll be able to come back and each of them have a fantastic season. Let's set some franchise and NFL records. I would love that. Love that. And that's my second biggest question. My third biggest question is the Ram running back room. Cam Akers, I feel like everybody who talks about Cam Akers has like the same take of, oh, like he had that weird thing last year where he was benched and they tried to trade him, but then they like figured it out and McVay and Akers are cool now. And then he finished off the season really strong and like had 3 over 100-yard rushing games. And as much as that talking point is so true, there's still question marks about Cam Akers. There's question marks about Kyren Williams. What about Zach Evans? Why did we bring in Sony Michel? I don't, and I'm not hating on any of those guys. I just think it's a very valid question to have is who's the lead back? Is this going to be a running back by committee? Because the reality is Cam Akers kind of looked best when he was in a featured back role last year. So maybe there's something to be said about that. And Sean McVay said that it was a couple weeks ago in a press conference that I'm not quoting verbatim here, but that Cam Akers is going to have a role, a big role in this offense. I'm excited about that. I would love to see a big Cam Akers year, run for acres of yards. I would love it. Cam the Ram. But that being said, Kyron Williams, there was a lot of excitement about him. He battled injuries in his rookie year. He's here in his second year. If you look up highlights from him, he's someone who can definitely, run the rock. Zach Evans, big unknown. We drafted him late, so I think in that running back rotation, he is the third string, but we'll see. And where does Sony Michel fit into this running back room? I don't know. And that's why it's one of my biggest questions heading into this year. My fourth biggest question heading into this year is Sean McVay and Raheem Morris schemes. Now, with so many new players and so much new talent on this team, it's the responsibility of coaches to set their players up for success. With that, we'll start with Raheem Morris. The bend but don't break defense that a lot of Ram fans have, criticized him before in the past, I think that's gone. I really do. I think this defense, it might make some mistakes, and it might be a little new scheme, but I think Raheem Morris, with not having star players like Bobby Wagner or Jalen Ramsey, that does give him a freedom to be like, okay, like maybe I don't have to use their special talents in a way. And I'm not saying that means the defense is going to be better, but I'm saying it does essentially allow Morris to rely more on role players to run his scheme instead of having to rely, like, make sure you're using the special talents of, once in generation talents like Jalen Ramsey and Bobby Wagner. So really curious how that's going to go. We know that, that defense is going to continue to develop. I talked about that earlier. But with Sean McVay, how is he going to use this running back room? How is he going to use these wide receivers? Because, and I didn't put this in my question, but in my 5 questions, but there are questions in that wide receiving room outside of Cooper Kupp besides his injury. Are we going to see Van Jefferson pop off? Are we going to see Tutu Atwell? Are we going to have the hybrid fullback position with Ben Skoranek? I don't know. Puka Anua. You're hearing the comparisons to Robert Woods. How do we see him fit into this? So many question marks. I'm excited about this wide receiving room. I'm excited about this offense. The offensive line fits into that scheme as well. Really curious. I thought about just making the offensive line one of my 5 questions, but when I thought about the scheme, I was like, you know what? Offensive line is a big part of that. And are they going to be able to run the ball effectively, consistently? Are they going to be able to keep Stafford upright and protect him? So that's one of the biggest question marks for me. And my 5th and final question is, can the Rams find a winning streak? It is so hard to win consistently in the NFL. That's not a hot take or anything like that, right? And especially when the Rams are coming off of a 5-win season, it's so hard and I'm going to pull up the schedule here just to show you guys, but it is so hard to go in and go on a 16, 17 game winning streak, right? I don't see this Rams team having that kind of season. I would love it, but I think it's happening. But I do think in order to make the playoffs, at some point, whether it's early in the year or late in the year, you have to go on a 3 to 5 game winning streak at some point. If you get into the, you win one week, you lose one week, you win one week, and then you're hovering around, and then at the end of the season, maybe you have a shot at the playoffs. I really think at some point you have to go on a 3 to 5 game win streak to make the playoffs. And so I bring up this schedule here just to show you that I don't know if the there is that 5 game or that 3 to 5 game in here, because we start off the first 3 weeks here. As much as I would love to say we're going to start 3-0, those are tough 3 games. Those are 3 playoffs teams right there in Seattle, the 49ers and the Bengals. I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. Sorry. Pardon me. Go Rams. Then, okay, I think Indy's a winnable game, but then you got the Eagles there, right? And like worst case scenario, the Rams are starting like 1-4, right? On that first 5 weeks. And then the Cardinals, I think that's winnable. And I think the Steelers is a winnable game. In Dallas could be tough, but I would love to stick it to them. And again, this is my schedule prediction or anything. I'm just trying to find where is this 3 to 5 game win streak in here, right? And I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen towards the end of the year, which is why I think it might be realistic for Ram fans to get in the groove of, okay, maybe by the bye week, we're at like that, one game below 500 or at 500 mark, or just, I guess when you have 9 games, you can't do that. But, you're kind of hovering around 500, either, a little ahead, a little before. But if it comes, I think it will come here at the end of the year. And I think when you get into this week 12 here, you get some winnable games against the Cardinals. Cleveland, they're enough of a question mark with Deshaun Watson, and they are a tough team, but I think that is a winnable game. Baltimore is always a tough outing, especially in Baltimore. But we've won there. The last time we played there, we were able to win. Washington's a winnable game. I believe going into the Thursday night game where we host the New Orleans Saints is a winnable game. I do believe the Giants is a winnable game. So I think if the Rams are going to have a 3 to 5 game win streak, it's going to be in this, week 12 to week 17 or week 18. You never know with the 49ers at the end of the year that way. But anyway, that's just some of my opinions. Let me know what you think. I wanted to come. I know this is a little bit of a longer video than I normally do, but those are my questions that I'm asking of, can the Rams find a winning streak? Sean McVay and Raheem Morris's schemes, what does it look like with all the new talent, the running back room, the health of Stafford, Kupp, and Donald, and the young, unproven defense? So let me know in the comments below. What do you think? I would love to talk with you. And again, appreciate you tuning on in. There'll be more great content to come from this channel. As always, go Rams, horns up, and peace out. Let's go Rams. Woohoo!
Thank you very much.